and let us just enter into this time for worship together. Let us enjoy our prelude this morning, a piece from Florence Price, played by Brock Chesvold, our fabulous music director. Good morning, and welcome to the First Universalist Church of Rochester, where we are called to nurture the Spirit and to serve the community. Whoever you are welcome here. Wherever you come from, you are welcome here. And whomever you love, you are welcome here. However courageous you may feel this morning, you are welcome here. All of you are welcome here. It is good to be together this morning. Each Sunday as we gather, we acknowledge with respect the Seneca Nation, keepers of the Western Door and part of the Haudenosaunee people on whose ancestral lands First Universalists now stands. If you are here this morning for the first time, we especially welcome you. Welcome, welcome. It is so good to have you with us this morning and to be here with you. We have a visitors forum that can be found in the chat. Please click on that link in the chat so you can fill out the visitors form and we can offer you a welcome beyond this virtual sacred space. As we gather this morning, we want to invite you, as so many others have been doing, to please pop into the chat and offer a greeting. You can find this at the top or at the bottom or at the side of your screen with an icon in the text bubble with the word chat. So please pop on over, offer a greeting, say hello, good morning. We are so glad that you are here. Welcome, welcome to worship at First Universalist Church. Our opening hymn this morning is hymn number 128, For All That Is Our Life. Let us join hearts and voices in singing together this morning, recognizing that even as we are singing muted in our own homes, we are creating a collective song across our city of Rochester, our greater community, and the world. So let us join in singing hymn number 128, For All That Is Our Life.
For the moments when we have shown up, when we have done what has been asked of us, when we risked in order that we may and others could live free. For the moments when we have known within ourselves the truth that needs speaking, the path that needs navigating, the task that needs doing, love the action that needs. For each moment of failing and trying again, for each moment, if we're learning, we could have been just a little bit more courageous. For all that is our lives, let us give thanks and praise. Come, let's worship together. As we light our chalice at First Universalist Church and in your own homes, will you join me in saying our chalice words in unison? May we be a people of welcome, here to grow in heart and mind and spirit. And may we reach out to our community. Please join me in our affirmation of faith, followed by our doxology. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall go into harmony with the source and meaning of life. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all. Out of love for one another, let us give to First Universalist Church. Out of love for our neighbors, we support the justice ministries of our church. Out of love and care for ourselves, we support the worship and spiritual life of this community. Out of love for life, we support our church's gathering, whether online or in person, or in some combination thereof. Out of love for truth, we support a place that encourages us to keep speaking, to keep seeking, to keep learning, and to keep growing. In this love, we find our generosity. And out of this love, we offer will be gratefully received. Please click the link in the chat to give online to First Universalist Church, or feel free to send a check to the church. Yeah.
Good morning. Good morning, friends. I love, this is our last Sunday with this theme of courage, which can be so hard and intimidating, especially having young children. The idea of courage, they think should be this big, grand thing. But how do we have and cultivate courage in every act of love and kindness? As in all the stories we share and read, this pictures tell a huge portion of the story. And in this story in particular, there's things going on in the pictures that they don't talk about directly. So I want to invite you to look a little closer at who they're saying hello to, who they're buying food from, who they're playing with. Our story today, I'm so excited to share, is Come With Me by Holly McGee, illustrated by Pascal Lemaitre. All over the world, the news told and retold of anger and hatred, people against people. And the little girl was frightened by everything she heard and saw and felt. She asked her papa if there was something she could do to make the world a better place. Her papa said, "Come with me." Hand in hand, they walked out the door to the subway. Waiting there on the platform, her papa tipped his hat to those he met. So the little girl did too. They rode the train through the tunnels underground. The girl and her papa were brave and kind, and that day they won a tiny battle over fear for themselves and for the people of the world. The news kept telling of anger and hatred, and the little girl asked her mama what she could do to make the world a better place. Her mama said, "Come with me." They went to their grocery store to buy some things for dinner. They went to their grocery to buy some things for dinner. Because one person doesn't represent a family or a race or the people of a land. Her mama cooked and the girl set the table piece by piece as she'd always done. Plate in the middle, knife and spoon to the right, fork on the left, napkin by its side, water glass. The little girl sat with her mama and her papa and they ate together. Her dog nuzzled her under the table. She scratched his head. "I want to do something of my own," she said. "Can I walk the dog?" Her parents looked at each other and they looked at their child. They let her go and sent a message to the world. They would not live in fear. When the little girl opened at the door, the boy across the hall opened his door too. "Where are you going?" he asked. The little girl said, "Come with me, because two people together are stronger than one." The girl and the boy and the dog were happy to be out. One step at a time, they understood what they could do to make the world a better place. They could go on. Brave, gentle, strong, and kind to one another and all living things. Tiny as it was, their part mattered to the world. Your part matters too. Come with me. Thank you.
I want to invite us now into this reverent time of sharing the joys and the sorrows of our gathered community. If you would like to, you can always take a moment to place a hand over your heart, to be able to listen from a heart-centered, heart-grounded place as we enter into this time of joys and sorrows. I will place stones into this bowl of water as I read aloud the joys and the sorrows of our gathered community. All are also invited to share in the chat if you would like to have joys and sorrows shared that won't be shared publicly but can still be held by this gathered community here and can still be honored and held by this community here. I want to lift up this morning a joy from Shirley Malone. I have two wonderful daughters here in Rochester. January 24th was 1 year since David's passing, Shirley's husband. Virginia took the day off of work, we had lunch, and then watched the YouTube video of his memorial service. Robin, after work, picked up dinner at a favorite restaurant for the two of us. So Shirley, we are just dropping one stone in the bowl for you and for your family, and another stone for all of the different ways that we are remembering David this week and holding his memory in blessed space and place in our hearts. We have a sort of well-wish request from Lois Baum. Please wish me well for my cataract surgery this Thursday, February 3rd. I will have general anesthesia because doctors found something additional of concern. Thank you. Lois, we will be thinking of you and holding you in our hearts this week, February 3rd. I'm sharing this joy. I'm not sure if it was shared last week, but it's a joy for Michael and Kelly Scott. Was this shared last week, Rev Michelle? Maybe it was. But yes, I'm still delighted and proud to share that their daughter, Erin, and her fiance, Nick, are planning a wedding for September. Woohoo! So exciting. And also a joy from Michael Scott. Happy to share with my church family that I have been named a fellow of the American Association for the Advancement of Science. Congratulations, Michael, dropping a special shell in the bowl for you and for your work there. Fantastic. I want to drop one stone in the bowl for all of the joys we are hearing in our chat this morning. And I want to drop one stone as well for the sorrows we are holding together, the many sorrows we are holding together. And we will drop one final stone into the bowl to represent all of the joys and the sorrows left unspoken in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts. We do not gather this morning to judge the reason we keep them silent. We just know that this morning we are holding a lot, and we just honor that. May all be held in the heart of love this morning. Today, as we do each Sunday, we will also light a white candle to acknowledge and honor that we are a community that is in the midst of living with, grappling with, surviving through this pandemic. May this candle's flame hold our experiences around COVID-19, the many hopes, fears, joys, and deep sorrows. May its light be a beacon of hope and a reminder that we are not alone. Amen. Blessed be, may it be so. Dear ones, I'll invite you now to take your hands away from your computer keys, to sit back. I know sometimes when I'm over Zoom, I kind of want to sit up in my chair. I'll invite you to sit back. Allow your chair to hold your weight as we enter into this time, readying ourselves for meditation and prayer. This morning will be so much more a meditation, I believe. So let us prepare our hearts and our spirits. So just take a moment to get quiet with me. Get quiet with yourself. Get quiet with the person you're next to if you're next to somebody this morning. Close your eyes or soften your gaze, whatever feels most comfortable to you. Take a moment to just rest your hands softly on your lap or wherever they feel most comfortable. Let's take a deep breath in, and as we release it, just allow our bodies to lean in just a little bit more into that seed that is holding us. I want to invite you in your mind's eye to picture a snowfall. This should not be a far or a hard stretch of the imagination for many of us this weekend, but I want to invite you to just take a moment in your mind's eye to picture a snowfall, to watch the flakes falling from the sky, each slowly turning through the air and landing exactly where it is meant to be. Each flake catching a little glint of sun or glimmer as it falls. I want to invite you to visualize that these flakes, these snowflakes that you see falling in your mind's eye, these are your thoughts, your worries, your to-dos for today. Take a moment just to watch the snowfall, to allow these thoughts to settle. Watch each one float through the sky, gently held by the wind, and then watch it come to rest on the ground amongst the many different thoughts that fill your days, amongst the snowflakes that surround this thought and hold it. As your thoughts settle, allow your body to settle. Allow the tension to loosen in your shoulders and your neck. Allow the weight of your body to just be for a moment here. Don't resist it. Just let yourself feel heavy where you are. As your thoughts settle, as your body relaxes, let us take a moment in silence to allow our bodies and our hearts and our minds to be a vessel, a clear channel for what we need to hear this morning. Let us sit quietly and listen for just a moment to what is calling to us from our inner depths. Amen. Blessed be. May it be so. As we come out of the depths of our silence and come back to this space and this place with our gathered community, let us sing hymn number 6, Just as Long as I Have Breath.
Still with hope
Dear ones, this morning our reading is certainly a reading about saying yes to love. It's this piece, Wage Peace by Judith Hill. Wage peace with your breath. Breathe in firemen and rubble. Breathe out whole buildings and flocks of red-winged blackbirds. Breathe in terrorists and breathe out sleeping children and freshly mown lawns. Breathe in confusion and breathe out maple trees. Breathe in the fallen and breathe out lifelong friendships intact. Wage peace with your listening. Hearing sirens, pray loud. Remember your tools, flower seeds, clothespins, clean rivers. Make soup, play music. Memorize the words for thank you in 3 languages. Learn to knit and make a hat. Think of chaos as dancing raspberries. Imagine grief as the outbreath of beauty or the gesture of fish. Swim for the other side. Wage peace. Never has the world seemed so fresh and precious. Have a cup of tea and rejoice. Act as if armistice has already arrived. Celebrate today. Therein ends our reading this morning. I was really struck this morning by this sort of line in Rev Michelle's story, how, 2 people together are stronger than one. And this invitation to keep coming with me, come with me, come companion me, come accompany me, as a way to learn about how to be courageous together. We here at First Universalist Church are learning how to wage peace and how to be courageous together. Because we know that we, as ourselves, as a group, as a community, are stronger together than any one single one of us. And yes, I also am going to be encouraging us this morning to learn to celebrate as if armistice has already arrived. Because I'm going to tell you, I think that in order to make it through this January, which I am considering to be the longest January of my lifetime, maybe yours as well, we are going to need some celebrating in order to get us through this time period. And so, a bit of what I'm going to be talking about this morning about intentionally cultivating courage is about intentionally celebrating when we are courageous. But we'll get there in a minute. I think that our world deeply needs less people who are governed by their fears and more people who are willing to be courageous in community, in relationship. This morning, after I got out of my car in the church parking lot and tromped my way in here, I made my way through a doorway over which it is written, "Love, not fear, is spoken here." It is a bit aspirational, and yet I believe that love is our primary language as Universalists, as Unitarian Universalists, and I believe that love calls us to be courageous, even in the face of moments when we are fearful. I saw this morning after Rev Michelle shared our story, so many folks sharing, I was once that little girl, or I know how that little girl feels. I think many of us do right now. I think many of us know how that little girl feels sitting at home on her couch, watching the news, maybe wondering if she should check out, maybe having checked out a good few months ago, like some of us here in this space. We have a lot to be afraid of right now. There's a lot to fear. And yet, we have so many opportunities right now to be courageous, to be in our courageous ways of being, and to do this work together. To me, courage is a language of love. It is a language of peace, a resource we all have to draw upon in moments of hard conversations, in times when a greater love is being threatened, in times when there is the potential for harm. I imagine so many of us have been having courageous conversations in these recent times and in these recent days. Conversations around what is right and good for us. Conversations around what we believe in. Conversations with family and friends around safety and vaccination status when gathering. Assessing risk. Conversations about the future of our community and our country. We are having a lot of conversations right now, and a lot of places where we are being asked to be courageous in both large and small ways. In both of these pieces around the everyday kindnesses, knowing our tools, knitting hats, our flower seeds, our clothespins, those pieces that are ours to bring to the table, our tools. And yet, here we are, bearing witness or even directly experiencing the increased injustices in our community as the economic fallout of COVID continues. This morning, Debbie is still staying out on our front porch at First Universalist. She seems to be well and warm and taken care of. But we know that there are more roads ahead where our courage is going to be called upon. There are a lot more moments ahead where our courage is going to be called upon, as our courage has already been called upon recently. We are all being very courageous right now. And I really don't want to minimize that or dismiss it this morning. This time has called upon our courage in ways we have only been partially prepared for. And so this morning, why are we talking about this at church? Why are we talking about courage this month of January? Why are we talking about courage here at church? What does this mean for our faith? How does our faith call us to be in these situations? And how are we courageously in relationship with others? Of course, for me, when I'm looking at what our faith says around these topics, I have to go to our source documents. I have to go to our principles and our sources, sort of comb through there. What actually, what about what we say about ourselves calls us towards courage? I felt like perhaps the second source of Unitarian Universalism, words and deeds of prophetic people, which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. That feels like a call to courage to me from our second source of Unitarian Universalism. And I know that there are so many words and deeds and stories that I could call upon right now to tell you of, stories of our theological ancestors being courageous in the face of huge oppressions and injustices. And yet I also really want to invite us this morning to look at the words and deeds of prophetic people that might have been a little bit smaller, that might have just been in the everyday. I wonder if there's someone in your life that maybe at some point said to you, "Come with me." Or at some point saw your kindness or your courageousness and encouraged you. The acts of these people are some of the sources of our religious tradition, a living and breathing tradition, a tradition that we are all creating, co-creating now. I looked to our 7 principles of Unitarian Universalism too. Of course, I looked at the third principle, acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. I definitely see spiritual growth and growing in courage as a spiritual issue. Growing in courage is spiritual growth. And of course, looking at our fourth principle, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. If courage is not in service of truth, if courage is not in service of love, I don't think that courage really has much to do, much function in our world. I think we always have to examine, where is the courage coming from? Is it in service to truth? Our aspirational faith has called us to be courageous time and time again in our justice work, in our personal spiritual growth, in our truth-telling, in our conversations with our friends and families, in relationship building with one another, and in our community. I wanted to lift this up too out of our Universalist heritage from one of our more modern theologians, Sophia Bettencourt. She writes, believing that we are all saved together, that one life cannot reach its greater meaning unless we center the liberation of all, means not only a willingness to invest in one another and in the greater good, but also responding faithfully to the call to live into the work together. Courage is a part of that call, this way that we faithfully live into the work together of collective liberation, of really recognizing universal salvation as it exists in this world right now. Courage is what we draw upon when we are seeking to create the world that we dream about, and to bring about a world more free of fear, more free of oppression, more free of the blocks and the barriers that hinder people. When we want to build a world that has more freedom, has more movement, that has more joy and aliveness to it, we draw upon courage to accomplish that task, to move that ahead. And yet, I wonder if sometimes we ourselves are not a big barrier to our own courageousness. I wanted to share an experience out of my life, and I'm wondering if you've had the same experience. You're in conversation with someone who knows you well. They share with you a story about you in which they found you particularly brave or courageous. You didn't quite see it this way before this person said anything. And all of a sudden, you may find your mind going to a story or two that you keep tucked away for moments such as these, when you were not courageous at all. That inner loop, that story, that memory of that time that you remained silent, that time that you did the thing that wasn't particularly courageous, that time when you had a chance to take a stand and you didn't. And you truck out these stories, maybe silently or to yourself, or if you're in close company, maybe you share them with others. And these stories and these loops really keep us from claiming and celebrating our own courageousness. I'm wondering if some of you have had this experience before, or in some way you want to maybe deflect or minimize the courage that you've actually exhibited and shown. I feel like this lack of celebration, this sort of trying to make ourselves small, to make our accomplishments small, to make our courage and our bravery small, keeps us from intentionally cultivating courageous practices. I'm wondering in what ways you cultivate courage. I heard in our story this morning, this practice of going around and tipping our hats to folks. To me, it's sort of, when I think about intentional cultivation of a practice, it sort of brings to mind the sort of tending and watering of a plant or the care of a pet. It needs ongoing, regular care and maintenance. It's not realistic of ourselves to expect that we will just be courageous in all situations. And I actually think it does deep spiritual damage to hold the unrealistic expectation that we will always be courageous at all times in every single moment. Literally, no one can do that. No one does that. It is an unrealistic expectation. I think we could all use some opportunities to celebrate courage more, to celebrate our own courageousness and the courageousness of our friends. No one benefits from us making ourselves small. So we hear from our poem this morning, wage peace, live in gratitude, learn to say thank you, do the things you can do, celebrate regularly. Cultivating courage looks like letting go of comparison, letting go of those stories that we may tell ourselves, maybe perhaps not about how courageous we haven't been, but also the stories of, well, look at what that person's doing. I could never be that courageous. I think we have to let go of those pieces and resist the urge to minimize our courageousness. The last thing our world needs is a bunch of people frozen by the idea that they are too small to make any sort of difference or impact. You have an impact. You have friendships and relationships and a community in which you matter. Your impact is likely larger than you think, and your spheres of influence are so deeply important. I'm going to tell you that we need your courage as this church continues how to discern to best wage peace in our small corner of downtown Rochester. We need your courage as we are continuing to think through how to do church in this time period with all this going on. We need your courage in your workplaces, in your friendships, in your families. We need your courage. We need you to be intentionally cultivating courage in your life. So this week, in the days ahead, I really want to invite you to make time to intentionally cultivate courage, to notice perhaps when you are feeling particularly courageous, and to take advantage of those times. I really want you to know your impact and celebrate the moments when you have been courageous. Take some time to celebrate this week. Take a moment, just even 5 seconds, to celebrate how courageous you have been and are being. And my wish for you, of course, always, is to find your place in the collective story of this time in which we are living, and a connection to the sacred in the midst of your courageousness. Dear ones, amen. Blessed be, and may it be so. Thank you. As we know that this is a larger love issue, and as we know that love will guide us into courageous action, and into courageous action, of course, together as a community, our final hymn this morning is hymn number 131, Love Will Guide Us. Let us sing.
Inside us, will lead the way.
Dear ones, as we extinguish our chalice flames at home and here at First Universalist Rochester, I'll invite you to join me in our unison words. We extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls to the world we live in, until we are together again. Dear ones, I'll invite you now, if you haven't already, to turn to gallery view. I'm going to get there myself. As we get ready to close our service this morning, I want to just invite folks to reach out to the edge of your screen. We will create a circle, an unbroken line of connection across our city of Rochester, across our country, across the world, wherever you're here from this morning. Dear ones, may we feel the power of being connected here. May we just take a moment to look around to the faces of those gathered here. Remembering this morning that we can be more courageous as we are together. Remembering this morning that this time period calls for and needs your courage. Remembering this week that our courage is worthy of and deserving of celebration, and that it is always in service of love. May you go forth this morning knowing you are loved, and may you go and be that love to whomever you meet. Amen. Blessed be, and may it be so. Dear ones, I want to invite folks after our postlude this morning to join us in 10 minutes for coffee hour and conversation about the sermon. You can just stay right here. And as we come to a time to close our service, I invite you to follow our benediction with the words, I celebrate my courage. We'll start today. And please enjoy our postlude from our fabulous music director, Brock Jeswold.